Welcome back to Clicks and Coffee. Today I'm thrilled to introduce Helen Anderson, the visionary founder of HelloCare, an in-home care service based in Oregon. With a nursing career that began in 2005, Helen witnessed firsthand the challenges seniors face when they wish to age in place but require medical assistance. This inspired her to establish HelloCare in 2019, aiming to provide compassionate, professional care that enables seniors to remain safely in their homes. Under her leadership, HelloCare has expanded rapidly, now employing a dedicated team of caregivers and nurses. Helen's commitment to both client and staff has garnered recognition, including the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network Entrepreneurial Achievement Award in 2022. I'm eager to delve into Helen's journey, the growth of HelloCare, and her innovative approach to elevating in-home care. Helen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Alexander. I appreciate your time.
All right, so, I made a little bit intro, but could you tell us a little bit more on what inspired you to transition and what really pushed you to transition from nursing to really founding HelloCare and helping people?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I really think HelloCare, like my focus of HelloCare is really creating opportunities for caregivers. We've been taking care of each other. Humans have been caring for each other since we've been gathered around campfires, cooking our mastodons on a stick, right? People have been kind of looking out for each other. But the way that senior care has kind of evolved has kind of made caregivers pretty vulnerable financially and socially. And working in senior living, I really saw that there were so many caregivers that were dedicated to making everybody's day better, that just, they had this special talent for just making order of the chaos and helping people feel heard and cared for. And the systems that they worked in, unfortunately, didn't honor them. They weren't compensated fairly, and the work-life balance just wasn't there. And so I thought I can do this better. And so what I really set out to do was create a great place, a safe place for caregivers to really practice their talented craft, which is caring for others. I think of their medium as their voices and their hands and kind of their instinct that goes into really great natural caregiving. And of course, there's seniors that need care. We know that. We've been hearing those statistics for years. So what we really needed to fix was that limiting factor of staff. And so if we create a group that shares that same caregiving mindset and the caregiving language, we can bring people onto our team that share our values, and we can keep them here, and they can kind of deploy out into the world taking care of seniors that need them.
And so you launched HelloCare in 2019, and we all know what happened the year after that. So
yeah,
how was the challenge of launching a business in 2019 of basically in-person care, and then literally like a year later it's like shut down, and on top of that, the people at risk that were at most risk were the elderly population in the US. So what happened? Can you tell us a little bit of how you navigated through those like crazy times?
Yeah, those were definitely crazy times. So I was working as a nurse in assisted living when I started HelloCare. So these two jobs kind of overlapped. And so my responsibility for keeping my residents safe and my staff safe in my assisted living building also, of course, was top of mind when I was sending caregivers into homes. And I really think that COVID was almost good for us. COVID had some positive effects on in-home care, because the people that worked in senior living communities, I think, were so burnt out on sort of corporate healthcare, the corporate response to COVID, that when another opportunity came along for them to be caregivers in a different environment where they had the time and the capacity to really care for people the way they thought they should be cared for, they came over to that opportunity pretty quickly. And we haven't really ever stopped recruiting. Our most common place that we get new caregivers is word of mouth from our existing caregivers, which is a huge compliment for us.
And so you emphasize a nurse-led team approach to HelloCare. How does this model, enhance the quality of the care provided to your client? And it seems by what you're telling me, that's kind of is the future of, in-home care.
Oh, 100% it's the future. Nurse care management is where care is going, and for the simple fact that it produces better outcomes. We know that reducing hospitalizations helps people stay independent and stay at a low level of care longer. And we do that by noticing problems when they're small. We notice that by saying, oh, this person has a red toe. Maybe they need to see their doctor and get an antibiotic. But if we don't see the problems when they're small, the problem is they don't get addressed until they're big and they require a hospitalization, multiple days, skilled therapy. And so if we work from an evidence-based mindset, then we can see what needs to be done when the interventions are relatively small and minor, instead of waiting until we have an ER visit and then a 2-week hospital stay and then a stay in skilled. And then we have essentially a completely different person that's going to be discharged home after that hospital stay and that skilled nursing stay. So nursing is really about quality of care, and it's also about training our frontline staff to recognize those early signs of trouble.
So it's basically an apple and HelloCare a day keeps the doctor away.
Yes, exactly. Well, and there's so many things that our bodies can do to heal itself and to help itself. Things like getting out in the sunshine, things like good nutrition and moving around. All of these sort of basic things that we can do, I think, are part of good nursing care. Like, for example, one thing that is kind of my pet peeve is if someone gets prescribed a sleeping pill after they nap all day. I just think, good nursing care means that we keep people active during the day, and so they don't get as tired and lethargic, and then they do sleep at night. And then people get a good restorative sleep, and it doesn't place them at risk for that next day drowsiness that often comes along with prescribing a sleeping pill. So we know, if we look at the data, that people with dementia that are prescribed a benzodiazepine or a sleeping pill are more likely to suffer a fall and a hip fracture. So why wouldn't we do those other interventions of just naturally getting people kind of tired out during the day so that they sleep well at night and avoid all those drug side effects?
That is amazing. And so HelloCare, the main goal of HelloCare is to provide the best type of care, but the real second mission of HelloCare is to make sure that the employee well-being. And so I actually interviewed a couple of days ago the executive director of the SICA Foundation, which is also to help recognize nurses and caregivers in the health industry and in the senior living industry. So what are the initiatives and what are the things that make HelloCare so special for nurses and caregivers?
Yeah, right. Well, we really try to listen to what it is that caregivers need. Alexander, right now, the demographic of person that's doing caregiving is especially vulnerable. Think about the price of things that are going up, the price of rent, the price of gas, I don't even want to say eggs, right? Because we talk about that all the time. But people that are in this caregiving demographic are really susceptible to those different financial pressures and the different changes in sort of the economy. So what we can do as a long-term committed employer is understand that and help to kind of smooth out all of those bumps in the road that come along with being a caregiver. So things like we have rental cars here. So if someone has, car trouble and they can't get to work, that hurts everybody. That hurts the client, that hurts us as the company. And then of course that hurts the caregiver because they can't work and earn money and then fix their car. So we have cars that we lend out here for a small price just to kind of cover the expenses of that. And then we also have interest-free payday loans. So if someone, most of the time it is like moving into a new apartment and they need first and last, or they need money to fix their car, new tires, surgery for a dog, whatever. I don't care. I don't have to ask the questions. But these, so the option is for them to come to us and then they can have a certain amount taken out of each paycheck and there's no interest added on to that. So instead of a caregiver going to an interest, like a payday loan predatory lender, they can come to us and we can help them kind of get over some of those difficulties that they might be having in their lives. We also have caregivers that are on salary. So one thing that's been, we know is kind of difficult about working in senior care is that the client load can be kind of up and down and not really steady. So you have a client, you're very committed, and then that client maybe moves to memory care, they pass away, and then all of a sudden you don't have any hours. So what can we do to steady out those weekly hours? And what we do is we put people on a salary, and that means that they have a steady income and we have capacity to take new clients when they come to us.
Wow, it seems like we might get an influx of people moving to Oregon now.
Well, yeah, that would be great. I always say we're looking for the right people.
And so I mentioned, during the intro that you won the Entrepreneurial Achievement Award. So
yeah.
What made this, I would say, like the Entrepreneurs Network of Oregon choose you as the award recipient? Is it, what was it based on, and what did you do to get that award?
Yeah, it's kind of based on social good. So kind of what you do in the community, what you put into the community. And what I heard from our judges was that we were chosen because of the fact that we're helping our seniors get better care and be in their homes. And then we're also helping our caregivers kind of live their best lives as much as we can. And it's been really fun to be involved with that group. And now I've been a judge for the last 2 years. So now I'm kind of on the other side.
Win the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Now you're a judge.
So now I get to choose the winners. That's really fun.
No, that's great. And it sounds like a very virtuous circle of do good and good will come to you.
Yeah.
No,
I think of that.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you take care of your people and your people will take care of your business. And that's kind of, how it is, and trying to really understand, because everybody has bad days. And when we try to do the max we can to really help everybody, I think everybody's winning at the end of the day. And so we know, I was reading a very interesting article earlier this week about Gen X in the next few years are gonna, really overcome, like, be more bigger business than I would say the boomers right now. And we know that Gen X, is getting more into the technology. So we know technology is going to become an increasing, it's going to become increasingly important in healthcare and in senior living and senior care. And so how do you see that? And how are you preparing, I would say, for the years to come? Because they're saying the numbers, we're talking about like in 3-4 years, that is going to be more Gen X than boomers in retirement.
Right. That's crazy. So the way we're preparing for that is really understanding how to optimize caregiver time. And I'm really excited about technology because it helps us meet our goals of increasing sort of the hourly value of caregiver, which then we can pay the caregiver more per hour. Our goal is to remove the financial penalty that typically has come along with working in senior care. The folks that are that are doing senior care are taking care of just the most valuable people in our society, the most vulnerable people. And oftentimes they're the lowest paid. And it just doesn't make sense for the service that they're providing and the talent they have. They should be paid much better. So my job as an employer and an innovator is to figure out how do we optimize caregiver time to be able to maximize the number of folks that they can care for, and then that can kind of translate out into higher wages for the direct care staff. So yeah,
That's
so it's
exciting.
all about innovation, optimization, and I'm excited about it. I think there's a certain number of things that have to be done by humans. That's just the way it is. So our focus is really to look at what can be given over to technology, and so we can focus on the human side of things.
And then a very interesting, it's not brand new, but it's really becoming more and more present. And it's actually one of our clients at the agency, which is it's called Mobius MD, and basically for doctors or whenever you have to, record any interaction you have with a patient, instead of asking the patient and writing it down, this system allows you to take your phone with the app and basically put it on the side, talk like you would talk normal, asking the questions, and the system will automatically record and transcribe everything that happened, and then can make recommendation of like, do you want to prescribe that medicine? Are you ready for this? Did I get this? And basically, help make it so much easier. I know that there is another one called Dragon as well. So there are a lot of things, but it's really amazing what you can do and give better care. And at the same time, I mean, be more present, because that's also the part, is to be present. And at the same time, enhance, I would say, the care, because you're not missing anything since everything is being recorded. So
right. Well, and the data shows better outcomes for that removing the human, I don't want to say human error, but our like human bias about certain things. We really can, give a diagnosis that isn't as correct as if there's a machine or an LLM that's kind of looking at that and then spitting out what their best guess is. And again, we're just guessing, but I think there's pretty good data that supports machines giving, computers giving good diagnosis as opposed to people. So I don't know.
And then maybe in the future is really going to take every interaction with the patient and being able to establish, I would say, some kind of patterns, and say like, be careful with all of these interaction. This is what I'm detecting that can possibly happen. I don't know. That could be, just thought about it now. That could be pretty exciting. And looking ahead, what are your goals for HelloCare's future? How do you envision, I would say, the in-home care service for the next 5 to 10 years? If that, or maybe the next 5 years?
So our goal is to continue to create great partnerships. So home health, physical therapy, other home care agencies. There is so much to learn from each other, and collaboration with like partners is always a good way to learn and to share resources. So continue to just create more partnerships and more referral partners, and continue to increase the efficiency of our training, so we can continue to learn about, what are the early signs that interventions need to happen, and then train our caregivers to recognize those. Because really our frontline caregivers, they're our eyes and ears. I mean, I'm not in homes every day. So we have to, when we have new caregivers, we have to train them what to look for, so that when they notice something, they say something, and then we can go ahead and act on that. So I think training is going to continue to be really important. And maybe, AI would be part of it. I'm not really sure, but I don't see why not. There's a lot of different interventions that are needed, that are in response to certain symptoms that are pretty standardized. Like, for example, for congestive heart failure, we know that if someone increases the number of times they're coughing per day or their body weight goes up, that those are signs that the fluid in their body is increasing and that they probably need an extra dose of a diuretic. So those are things that we don't really need a person to be, looking at. That's things that can be detected with a scale that's Bluetooth to software, or, listening for what's happening in the home with other sensors, and then kind of giving us a red alert. Hey, this person usually coughs 10 times a day. Today they coughed 50. You need to check that out, and they have a CHF diagnosis. So those are, I think, all things that can help us take better care of more people with fewer frontline workers, and not saying that to say, oh, we don't need as many, we need to get rid of the people. That's not true. What we want to do is be able to have the people take care of more, and so that their wages can reflect that increased value in the market.
Wow. That is pretty inspiring, I would say, and pretty exciting. And so you mentioned a lot in the podcast that you're all about preventing and being proactive rather than reactive. So when do people should contact you?
Well, I think anytime they have a question about if they're doing care at home for a family member or a friend, when things start to be questionable. And also it's good to kind of have a plan for 6 months from now, because people's health as they age typically doesn't get better. It goes in the other direction. So you might say, I'm taking care of my neighbor, and, I bring her dinner every night and things are going well. How about in 6 months? How about in 12 months? What would that, what do you anticipate are going to be the kind of early signs that more help is needed? We don't like to make plans from the ER cots, right? So once you're in the ER and you've had a fall, or, someone's wandered away, those can oftentimes be plans that are made in a rush, and they are simply reactive. So it's better to be proactive and anticipate problems and have a plan in place, rather than after a fall, after an injury, after an illness, trying to think about, what can we do now to regain some of that health and functioning.
And so if people want to get in touch with you, where do you, I would say, where do you provide care, and how can people get a hold of you?
We provide care in most of the metro area of Oregon. So from Portland all the way to the Oregon coast. So people can reach us on our website. There's a phone number there that people can call that actually goes to my phone. So if you want to call or text me, that number is on the website. And you can also send us an email from there, any way that you can get a hold of us. Also from our social media, we have Facebook and Instagram and all those other things. If you're inclined to send messages there.
And what is your website address? Website URL?
It's hellocareinyourhome.com.
Perfect. We just want to make sure that we get that on record anyway. Everything will be in the description of the video. And I really love meeting people like you that really care about the industry and about the business as a whole, and not just on let's get more sales, but really care about the whole thing, because it just makes it easier, I would say, to live and to be happy. So Helen, it's congratulations on your venture, and I really wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you, Alexander. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.